Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapklis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo Plus Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow. Welcome to the Just Grow podcast, my beautiful people. Glad to have you here. If you're watching this on YouTube, see I got a nice little stocking cap. It's a little chilly here in Scottsdale. I thought we kind of got over the hump, but now it's came back. Oh man, I'm excited for this episode. I just thought to myself, I was like, this is going to be a banger. It really is. For so many reasons, and I'm excited. I'm excited for it. I have a little bit of a hoarse voice again. I was doing some screaming yesterday. Tell you more about that. I was in Sedona. Really beautiful day. It's actually raining. So just kind of comes back to that whole concept we talked about, just dancing in the rain. But I'm going to dive into this episode. I'm really excited about the topics that we're going to be discussing here, which I'm going to talk about faith and really the spirituality behind that, but also the science behind it. It's quite interesting once you start understanding like what's really happening in our bodies with faith. It's cool. It's a cool concept. And then we're also going to talk about relationships and how to navigate them as this world is evolving and changing very quickly. It's, the cornerstone of this world is people. So how do you navigate people in the most graceful way, I would say. So I'm going to dive into all that. And what I'm really excited about too is obviously our next event on February 2nd with Ryan Tamita of Middle Finger Mantras. We'll also have the lovely Samantha Harper blessing us with her sound healing. It's going to be an epic event. And the reason that I even mention that as well is because a lot of what I'm going to talk about here today is going to be a conversation we're going to go into the depths of on that podcast event. So if you guys would like to join us and even dive deeper into this stuff and be in a room of incredible humans and just a lot of healing and a lot of epiphanies and help you navigate this world a little bit easier with a little bit more grace, you'll definitely want to be in that room. I already have a good amount of people signed up for it, but if there are tickets still available, you can go to www.justgrowpodcast.com and you can sign up there and learn all about it. But it'll be at 6:30 here in South Scottsdale. All right. With that said, let's dive in. What is this? What is the science and the spirituality behind faith? Well, if you guys have been following me on Instagram for any period of time, you probably, or at least the last, several weeks, you'll notice that, my faith has really deepened. My relationship with God has deepened. And it's come from, I'm actually on a 21-day fast. It's a sundown fast, so I'm only eating at night. Basically one meal at night. So it's a stretch for sure. But the whole reason behind that was it was offered as a challenge from our pastor here at Impact Church, Pastor Travis Hearn. I really resonate with him and connect with him because of his vision and where he's looking to really take the people and help them get to heaven when they die and help more people not live in hell while they're alive, which I thought that was an interesting concept to explain. Never really heard it said like that, but it's powerful. And so as I've been diving into my faith more, it helped me realize what is faith. What is in my work and all my understandings from all the findings that I've had and as well as the things that I learned from my mentors, like what actually is faith. And I made a post on it today talking about faith and really what that means and the science and the spirituality behind it. And so I'll dive into that stuff because I think it's fascinating, and it all kind of comes back down to the subconscious mind. And this also really falls in really well with navigating relationships because, as I've mentioned on some previous episode, I had some challenges with relationships, especially last year in 2023. And also, I don't think that's ever going to really go away. We get to continue to navigate relationships, and, stuff happens, right? And people aren't going to be in your life forever. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to get into here in a little bit, but I want to explain this, like the science versus the spirituality of faith. Well, what is faith? Well, faith is just trusting and knowing that everything is working out exactly the way it's supposed to. And it's kind of an interesting concept because it's like you almost have this blind faith, you have this blindness to what's going on, and you say, I surrender and trust that everything is working exactly the way it's supposed to. And that's like, that can be challenging because you can't see it. You just kind of have this inner knowing, and you base it on whatever you believe in, whether that is universe, whether that is spirit, whether that is guides, whether that is God. I choose God. But it's you're blindly following it, even though you can't necessarily see anything, and it's a feeling, right? So it's kind of a wild concept, and I think that in itself is why it can be challenging for people to really have that faith because they can't see it, but you can feel it. And for me personally, I know that the more that I dive into my faith, the more that I have conversations with God all throughout the day, I just have more peace around me. I know that I'm protected. And it feels really good. And so that's just kind of how it is in terms of you want to talk about the spirituality side of things. Obviously, if you are, building a relationship with God and strengthening your faith in that sense, obviously there's a Bible, and that is the written word. It's basically the playbook of life, and that kind of explains the concept of faith. But again, at the end of the day, it's more of just a feeling and just going with it, right? At least that's my belief at this very moment. But let's talk about the science behind it, because it ultimately kind of comes back down to the subconscious mind. And so I want to just share this kind of stuff with you because it's powerful. It's really crazy powerful. So our unconscious mind, subconscious mind, whatever you want to call it, our unconscious, really what it is designed to do, it is to create an emotion in your body so that you take an action. Okay? Let's say that one more time. It is the conscious, the objective of the unconscious mind is to create an emotion within yourself that gets you to take action. So, for example, if it's way back in tribal times, let's say you saw a tiger and your unconscious, there was something that triggered in your unconscious to say we need to get out of here. So it created an emotion, it created fear in the body so you could feel that fear and then jet out of there, run, create the action. It creates the action. It creates the emotion that creates the action, right? So that makes sense, right? And here's the other interesting part about the unconscious is that it is completely obedient. And you might have heard that before, but it also deems everything in the now. So it believes that it just happened, it's about to happen, or it's happening. Okay? It believes everything is happening now. And so the interesting thing about this all is that why words are so powerful and why they really can command the subconscious. Because let's take, for example, obviously I just mentioned that example. You see a tiger, the unconscious creates fear in your body, not forcing you, but like activating you to run. Okay? So let's take another example, kind of on the flip side, and almost the lack of trust, lack of faith. Well, what happens? Let's say, again, for an example, let's say you're having a challenging situation with a friend. And maybe you even have, like, you have some dissonance with this person. You guys aren't agreeing on something. And then, let's say you have a conversation with them. You have a tough conversation. You get it out. And you guys still don't really come to terms. You don't agree on it. Okay? You don't agree on it. You don't agree on what just happened. Both people kind of see both sides, and there's not like some common ground. And from there is, let's say that this is something that you're like not having faith that this was meant to be. And it's almost like a separation, right? It's a separation of friends. Again, we're just going with this example, a separation of friends. And let's say you hold on to that. You say, like, I don't agree with this. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. This shouldn't be happening. Like, we had such a great friendship, and this isn't the way it should be. We should be friends, and we should come to terms. And yeah, so that's kind of like what you're saying. And those are the words that you're using. This shouldn't be happening, and you're not agreeing with it. And so the interesting part about that is, again, is you're commanding your subconscious, okay? And let's say you had this conversation a month ago, 2 months ago, 6 months ago, and you're still like holding on to that because of the fact that you're not letting go, but you keep on talking about it. And you keep commanding to your subconscious that, like, they did you wrong. Something like that, right? And so you're commanding to the subconscious, and because the subconscious is completely obedient and it believes everything is either happening now, about to happen, or just happened, it believes that it's happening right now, which again, I come back to the fact that it's creating an emotion inside of your body. And let's say just because of this situation, you're just not accepting it. You're creating anger. You're creating resentment inside of your body. Your unconscious is creating those emotions in your body because it wants you to take an action to alleviate the situation. But here's the thing is, like, let's again say this is kind of like a breakup, and there's not going to be any communication, and no more communication is actually going to benefit the situation. You just keep on creating more anger and resentment inside of your body that you can do nothing with. Right? Isn't that crazy? So you're creating this anger and resentment in your body every time you talk about it, every time you think about it, every time you have a conversation with another friend, every time you open it back up. It's like you're almost opening the wound again and making it worse. And the interesting thing about emotions is that, like, the more that you experience those emotions, the more you're conditioning your body to those emotions, and your body's literally getting addicted to those emotions. So even though you don't want anger, even though you don't want resentment, you're conditioning your body to be addicted to those emotions, so you don't actually want to change physiologically inside of your body, even though you say that consciously. But the subconscious, the unconscious is like, oh, it keeps bringing that up. Oh, it's happening right now because we think that it's happening right now. It's about to happen or just happened, because that's what the unconscious does to create that emotion, to get you to move and make it shift. But again, you're just like stuck in this, and it's just like creating this cycle that's just keeping you stuck more and more. And it's just this vicious cycle that continues to bring you down and down and down. Right? That's holding on. That's how you get addicted to holding on. You get addicted to being stuck in these emotions. Right? And not letting go, not trusting, not having faith is obviously the opposite of having faith. Having faith in the unknown. Having faith that everything's working exactly the way it's supposed to. And so the sooner that you can let go, the sooner that you can surrender and say, this is exactly the way it's supposed to go. God's got my back. Universe, whatever you want to call it. God's got my back. And I'm not at this alone. And it was all written. It was already written. I'm a co-creator in this life with God. Right? The more that you can truly accept that and just move through the challenges and let go of them, you're going to have a lot less pain inside of your body. You're going to have a lot less pain inside of your life if you continue to just navigate life and say, what's for me is for me. What's not is not. And you can't fuck up what's meant for you. So the more that you can just accept what is, the more you'll be less resistant on what was. And I think that segues perfectly into this conversation about relationships. And again, I'm sharing all this stuff, and I hope you guys understand that these are things that I'm processing, going through and learning and evolving and just continuing to grow into the next version of myself. And I just truly believe that so many people have challenges with this, and me experiencing these challenges and learning and growing through them can help others. And I made a podcast episode maybe in a couple months now, called Life is Messy. And I had a lot of people reach out and say that episode really spoke to them. So that's why I share all this stuff. And again, this is the type of stuff that we're going to share deeply at the next podcast event. But again, I think this segues perfectly into this conversation about relationships. And obviously, things I've been sharing are pertinent to relationships. And it can be challenging navigating relationships because here's the thing, is that everyone is operating from their belief system. They're operating from their childhood, from their traumas, everything that they know and understand and how they were raised and grown up. That's how they're operating. Everyone sees the world completely different. And how people are responding and reacting has absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Which makes it kind of a chaotic environment where no one's really on the same page. But I'm going to share some things here that I think will help you, give you the tools to get on the same page with the people that are important and that people that matter. And I think that's kind of really where it starts, is starting to be more discerning on who are the people that matter, who are the people that you want to, keep in your life for the long haul. And here's what I'll say too. Again, I think people come into your life for you might have heard the quote, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. But what I would even add to that quote is that it's mostly a reason or a season. Most people are not coming into your life for a lifetime. I mean, can you think about anybody really that is going to be in your life for your whole life? I mean, your parents maybe, if you die before them. I would think that's really the only way that there would be someone that's in your life for your complete lifetime. Or if you have a twin brother or sister that is born and dies with you, which would be pretty uncommon, I would think. So it's pretty rare that for a full lifetime, anyone's going to be there right there with you, right? So that's just facts right there. And there's definitely going to be people that are in your life for a longer period of time. You get married and, let's say you're happily married for 50 years. That's awesome, but that's not your full lifetime. So there's going to be variations of the lengths of what people are in your life. But as you can clearly see, that the majority of that, unless of course the isolated incidences, most people are not in your life for that long. again, there's isolated incidences, like maybe a childhood friend, and then she, stays within your life for a long time, and that's great. But I think that's important to share, because I know for me personally, like when I, really, I love connecting with people. I love sharing with people. I love like building relationships with great people. And sometimes I get attached to that. I'm like, oh, well, having some great experiences, and oh, these people are amazing, and they'll, be in my life for a really long time. But here's the thing is that, like, people change, people evolve, and we're always growing and molding and adapting. And some people are growing fast, some people are growing slow, some people aren't growing that much. And it's just like we're constantly in this like interesting, I don't say a maze, but like a constant just evolution. And it's just like we cross paths with certain people, and then we grow in different directions, and then you meet new people and you grow in different directions after that, and you meet new people, and maybe you grow the same way for a really long time, and that's maybe again like your wife or your husband. And you grow for a really long time, and then a person passes away, and then you go a different direction. And it's just like, I think that really helps us to have that mentality of high intention, low attachment. Like, I think when we hold on to things, as I mentioned in the whole like conversation around spirituality, the science of faith, is like that's when it can create a lot more pain. But when you operate your life from a place of, hey, I'm just gonna enjoy this the best that I can. I'm gonna have clear intentions of like, here's what I want to do. I want to be present. I want to be mindful. Whatever your intentions are, and then you just get to experience your experience and not hold on too tight to any person, place, or experience that comes in. That's when you're able to just embrace life a little bit more. And yeah. So with all of that said, that's kind of up in the air, a little, I would say ambiguous, but like, what are some more like technical, tactical, not even, I won't say tactical, but like just ways that you really can like hold on to certain things that can help you navigate relationships a little bit more. And I was having a conversation with Ryan Tamita last night. We really went to the depths of this. And I think something that's very helpful, and something I even learned from one of our podcast guests, his name's John Malott. He said something that really spoke to me. He said, small circle, big network. And, especially as entrepreneurs, as we, build out these networks, and you have certain people in your life that are helping you with business, and certain people that are friends, and kind of just different roles within your life. But I think when we really continue to get a little bit more clarity on who's in our inner circle, which is, a lot tighter, and who are the people that are probably a little bit more on the network side of things, where the network's a lot bigger and there's less intimacy within the network, right? And so I think it starts with that inner circle. And here's just a way to look at it, is that I think it's important. I heard this quote, actually, I did a podcast episode with Lauren of Love, and she said this. She said, know the rules so you can break the rules. And so that could even open up a completely different conversation. But point is like, know the rules, and know what are your rules for your inner circle, and what are the rules for your network. And when I say rules, I almost look at it much more as your values. Because at the end of the day, I think really what is going to help all of us so much more is when we know our values. We've talked about this a lot, especially like talking about your vision and what you want with your life and your business and where you're going. Like, most people don't know where they're going because they don't know who they are, because they don't know what they value. And then it's going to be hard. It's going to be challenging to really align with people if you don't know your values. Because what I'm getting at is, really, I think this is all a question of alignment. Like, who do you want to be around? Again, we come back to the inner circle. I think the rules of creating your inner circle are your values. And it's about finding alignment with other people that have very similar values. And it also comes down to like the intention and the energy around those values. So let's say, I would just come back to, the conversation I had with Ryan Tamita last night, and the reason that we are in each other's inner circles and that we really relate and connect is because we both really value truth. Like, that's one of our highest values. That's one of my highest values. I value experience. I value treat others the way you want to be treated, no matter like what happens, and just showing people compassion. And he's very on board with those values as well, and that's why we are such good friends and we're in each other's inner circle. I think another component of it is kind of the capacity that everyone has, because people are going to be at different stages of their life. I would say that there's definitely people in my inner circle, but I don't talk to them real frequently either. And so you could even kind of say that could be a different rule, where like maybe someone actually isn't in your inner circle unless they have the capacity to be in your inner circle, because one of the things we talked about is like the frequency of communication. Is like, hey, if I call somebody in my inner circle, I call or text them, I'm usually getting a response back within a day. And my network is more, I would get a response back in probably like a week, maybe even 2 weeks. That's kind of like the network response rate. But again, I'm coming back to the whole thing is that like it's about creating your rules for your inner circle, for your network. And so I think the more that clear that you can get on your values and your rules for those particular areas of your life, that's when things start to make sense a little bit more. And then to put a bow on all of this, I think really it comes down to communication, right? Especially with your inner circle, being able to have those conversations and say like, and it's tough conversations too. So another reason that like Ryan and I are good friends is because we can have tough conversations. It's not, and he challenges me. I challenge him to think from this objectively, like not just to be always agreeing with each other, but being able to have those tough conversations and become stronger in alignment because of those tough conversations. Because it can definitely be on the flip side where maybe you think you have somebody in your inner circle and then you have a tough conversation. A tough conversation can go either way. It can strengthen the relationship or it can break down the relationship. And again, coming back to kind of what we talked before, is like having that detachment of this needs to have a good outcome, and we need to strengthen our relationship from this. It doesn't necessarily always going to be the case. In fact, a lot of times it's not, because again, most relationships are not going to last your whole life. And so just having that awareness of saying, hey, we might have a tough conversation, and if it doesn't strengthen a relationship, then they're probably going into my network as opposed to my inner circle. And that's okay, right? We're not all meant to be in each other's inner circles. There's no way that could even happen in this world. There's too many people. And so I think it's really about figuring that out, and it's okay, and not to have resentment and anger towards people that are not necessarily in your inner circle anymore, because maybe they were in your inner circle for a while and then things changed and evolved and adapted, and that's great. So it can be an interesting pill to swallow, and as you learn and grow through these, and that's what I'm learning and growing through, and it's a beautiful journey. But you just get to keep on learning and growing and learning yourself more and more, learning what you value more and more, and constantly figuring that out, because it's not always going to be the same, and you're continually evolving, adapting, and growing. And so your values are going to change while other people's values are changing, and it's just like, enjoy the ride. Because again, I'll come back to it, like just like that episode I did a few months ago, is life's crazy, life's messy. But life is also very beautiful, and life is really fun as well, if you choose to take that approach. And I think at the end of the day, that's why the only relationship, that the most important relationship, the relationship is with yourself, is with God. Being more secure in who you are in your faith, and knowing that that's the rock that you get to lean on, has you less swayed. Because when you're more secure and confident in yourself, you don't need anybody else, then that's when you don't get as flustered around these different relationships. And I think that's probably the biggest lesson that I'm learning recently. And it's, these lessons that God's put in my world, in my awareness, so that I can just experience life with more grace and ease and more peace in the way that I want it. So that's kind of an interesting episode, but I trust that it gave you some value and helped you, and whether that was in your faith, whether that was in just understanding how the world works a little bit more, how relationships work, how you can start navigating your relationships even a little bit more. Let me know, guys. Let me know if this resonated with you, if it landed, if you're feeling it. Shoot me a DM. I always love hearing these DMs of people saying stuff resonated with them. And let me know if you have additional questions or anything else that comes from this. Because, again, we're always looking to share stuff that people are interested in, and things that are popping up every day. Because, again, that's kind of what I come back to. The last thing I'll share on the whole conversation about relationships. I think that's why, one of the biggest reasons on why this is pertinent now and why things are just seem to be ever evolving is, I think, technology and the fact that we have access to everyone has access to everyone, technically, with social media, with text messages, like everything. It can get overwhelming when we have so much access. So, yeah, interesting conversation, and we're going to continue it and deepen it at the next podcast event on February 2nd with Ryan Tamita of Middle Finger Mantras. It's an amazing, beautiful men's group that's doing a lot of healing. So we're going to talk about all this stuff. We're talking about masculinity and friendship, relationships, where we are in the world. So it's going to be fun. We're going to have Samantha Harper doing the sound healing. Really excited about that. And you guys can go grab tickets if there's some still available at www.justgrowpodcast.com. But thank you for listening to this episode. Appreciate y'all. Share this episode with someone that can get some value out of it. Treat others the way you want to be treated. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.